tell the truth, does this surprise you guys that Shedeur Sanders, pick number 144, is now the best-selling jersey of the draft class?
No. Shedeur Sanders just signed a massive deal that has nothing to do with the NFL, and it's shaking up the league in ways nobody expected. Instead of waiting for his career to settle inside the Browns system, Sanders went outside the traditional path, securing a contract that puts him on par with established stars before he's even taken a regular season snap. For the NFL, which has long controlled how rookie quarterbacks grow their brands, this move feels like a direct challenge to their playbook, and executives aren't happy about it. TV ratings spiked 28% the moment Shedeur Sanders stepped onto the field during Cleveland's preseason broadcast, a surge that told the league just how much weight his name already carries. That kind of bump is rare for an August game, especially when most preseason viewership hovers in the low millions nationally. Yet Sanders' appearance pushed the Browns into a primetime field despite being slotted for a regional broadcast. It was the clearest sign yet that the young quarterback doesn't just play football, he moves numbers, and advertisers are paying attention. But what has the NFL unsettled is that Sanders' latest contract, signed outside the league's usual structures, channels that attention into a revenue stream the NFL can't control. Traditionally, rookie quarterbacks rely on league-sanctioned sponsorships or team-managed promotional deals to build their financial base while proving themselves on the field. Sanders bypassed that entirely. His deal, estimated in the high 8 figures, runs through a private partnership with a sports apparel company eager to stake its future on him, not the NFL shield. In other words, he now has a stream of income and brand presence that lives beyond the NFL's grasp. For a league that prides itself on centralized power, that's an earthquake. This sudden independence also reshapes how fans view him. Ticket resale markets for Browns preseason games jumped from an average of $47 to $123 once word spread that Sanders would play extended reps. Local reports even noted a 15% spike in concessions and parking revenue during that stretch, small details that underline how his presence directly boosts the Browns' bottom line. Yet none of those figures flow back to the NFL's broader sponsorship ecosystem. Usually, the league leverages rising stars to secure league-wide deals with corporate partners like Verizon, Gatorade, or Nike. Sanders' decision cuts into that model. His deal comes with exclusivity clauses that reportedly restrict him from participating in certain league promotions, meaning the NFL can't simply plug him into the usual highlight packages or ad rotations without approval. That's where the frustration builds, because while Sanders drives numbers, those numbers aren't translating into league-controlled revenue. The timing could not be more disruptive. The NFL is already negotiating new streaming packages with networks paying billions to secure rights. Analysts had projected steady preseason declines in viewership, but Sanders has already flipped that script. When Cleveland played Detroit, regional ratings jumped 32% compared to the same slot last year. On streaming platforms, Sanders' debut pulled in more than 450,000 concurrent viewers on NFL Plus, the highest figure for any preseason game in franchise history. But instead of celebrating, league executives are privately alarmed that Sanders' outside contract sets a precedent. If every promising rookie quarterback can monetize his name and likeness independently, the NFL loses bargaining power in sponsorship negotiations. Broadcasters can no longer assume that the league holds exclusive control over its stars, and that weakens the league's hand at the table. This isn't just theory, it's already affecting how sportsbooks and merchandise vendors react. Sportsbooks in Ohio reported a 41% increase in Browns-related preseason prop bets once Sanders was named QB2 for the exhibition slate. Yet jersey sales data tells a different story. Sanders' personalized merchandise outsold all other Browns jerseys combined in the first 2 weeks of August, with a 280% increase over the next highest selling player, Myles Garrett. That matters because Sanders' new contract funnels those sales through a private fulfillment channel rather than exclusively through the NFL Shop or Fanatics partnership. It means less revenue for the league and more leverage for Sanders' brand. For the NFL, that shift is troubling. It exposes cracks in a model they've used for decades to keep player economics under their umbrella. The backlash isn't just financial though, it's cultural inside the league. Coaches and front offices value tradition, and rookies are expected to earn their stripes before locking in superstar level endorsement deals. Sanders has flipped that order. He's cashing writing checks that rival veteran quarterbacks without yet securing his first NFL start. While his play has shown flashes, completing 68% of his preseason passes for 312 yards, 2 touchdowns, and just 1 interception, the sample size is still small. Normally, those numbers would be treated with cautious optimism, but paired with his contract, they make every rep feel magnified. If he thrives, the league loses even more authority because his model becomes replicable. If he struggles, the Browns risk having a commercial icon whose on-field production lags behind his off-field fame, a dynamic that has historically caused locker room tension. Either way, the NFL is stuck reacting to a player who has outpaced their system. That's why executives are quietly voicing concerns about precedent. An unnamed league official told a local outlet that Sanders' deal undermines the collective structure we've built. Translated, it means they fear this will open the door for other players to cut their own paths. Imagine a top 5 draft pick in the future bypassing the NFL's official apparel partners and signing with a rival brand. Imagine a running back negotiating his own streaming partnership to air weekly behind-the-scenes content outside of NFL films. Once one player succeeds, others follow. Sanders may have just accelerated that shift by several years. The biggest tell of the NFL's frustration is how they've handled media coverage. National broadcasts briefly mentioned Sanders' contract during preseason commentary, but moved quickly to downplay its scale, framing it as a rookie endorsement rather than a paradigm shift. That was intentional. The league doesn't want to spotlight a deal that empowers players beyond its reach. Yet on social media, the numbers are undeniable. Sanders' announcement video pulled 12.4 million views in its first 48 hours, dwarfing the NFL's own highlight clips from that same week, which averaged closer to 1.8 million. That imbalance makes clear where fan attention is drifting, and it's not always to the league's official feeds. Financial analysts are already comparing the ripple effect to when LeBron James signed his lifetime Nike deal, but the key difference is timing. LeBron was an established NBA star by then. Sanders is still unproven, yet brands are betting on him early. That tells you how much his name carries weight from his college career at Colorado, where his games routinely spiked ratings by 40 to 50% compared to other Pac-12 matchups. Those college numbers now bleed into the NFL ecosystem, giving Sanders a head start most rookies could never imagine. For the NFL, it raises an uncomfortable question. Is Shedeur Sanders bigger than the league's marketing machine? The numbers say he might be. Losing practice reps in August might not sound like a headline, but for Shedeur Sanders and the Cleveland Browns, every snap carries enormous weight. Unlike established veterans who can afford to sit out preseason series, Sanders is in a battle for positioning, and those reps directly affect how the coaching staff evaluates him. According to team tracking, Sanders has taken just 43% of first-team practice reps through the opening 3 weeks of camp, compared to 67% for Dylan Gabriel and nearly 80% for Deshaun Watson. On paper, that gap means Sanders is already working from behind, but in reality, his off-field contract ensures that his visibility isn't tied solely to playing time. That's exactly why it matters now. The NFL has a quarterback whose market power outpaces his depth chart standing, and that changes how every decision is interpreted. When Sanders was listed as QB2 for the Browns' second preseason game, ticket resale prices surged by nearly 40% within hours. Fans who normally wouldn't show up for a late summer exhibition were suddenly willing to pay top dollar, not because the Browns were unveiling new schemes, but because Sanders was taking snaps. That level of impact is unheard of for a rookie who has yet to start a regular season game. It also explains why his independent contract is drawing so much attention. If one player can shift ticket markets and streaming audiences before proving himself, it means the traditional order of prove it first, profit later has been flipped upside down. The NFL has long relied on that progression to maintain control, but Sanders has short-circuited it. The impact on Cleveland's roster planning is just as pressing. With Sanders' deal in play, every personnel move now has a business component layered on top. If Kevin Stefanski benches him for too long, the franchise risks alienating fans who have already tied their wallets to Sanders' brand. If they promote him too quickly, they risk accelerating his development curve and potentially stunting his growth. This delicate balance isn't new in sports, but the scale is. Cleveland hasn't had this kind of ticket and jersey surge for a rookie since Baker Mayfield's debut in 2018, when sales spiked 270% in a single month. Sanders Sanders' surge has already outpaced that, hitting a 310% increase over preseason projections, and that's before the regular season even begins. The reason executives are furious now rather than later is because Sanders' timing collides with the NFL's broader negotiation windows. League officials are in active talks with Amazon and YouTube for expanded streaming rights, and every percentage point of audience growth strengthens their case. Sanders delivers those numbers, but the league can't fully monetize them if his outside deal excludes him from certain NFL-driven promotions. For example, insiders have hinted that Sanders' apparel partner is restricting him from participating in any NFL shop campaigns tied to league-wide promotions. That cuts off a revenue stream the NFL expected to rely on when negotiating ad inventory. When a single player can block the league from using his likeness in key campaigns, it undermines the centralized system that has powered the NFL's dominance for decades. There's also the locker room dynamic to consider. Veterans who fought for years to secure major endorsements now see a rookie walking in with a contract worth tens of millions, and it shifts the balance of respect. While teammates have publicly supported Sanders, Amari Cooper even said, "The kid brings eyes we've never had before." Privately, there's concern about how that attention translates when the team hits adversity. If Sanders struggles early, does the outside deal create tension? Do veterans begin questioning why a backup quarterback commands more media attention than pro bowlers? Those questions aren't abstract. They matter right now because the Browns are entering one of the toughest schedules in the league, with early matchups against Baltimore and Kansas City. A rough start could magnify every headline, and Sanders' contract ensures those headlines will land on the front page. Sportsbooks are already adjusting their models in real time. In the week following Sanders' deal announcement, prop bet volume on his name increased 52%, even though he isn't projected to start week 1. That kind of speculative betting is usually reserved for MVP candidates, not rookies. It means fans are tying their wallets to him before the Browns even make a depth chart decision. Why it matters now is that this betting activity reflects confidence in Sanders' brand, not just his on-field play. For the NFL, that's dangerous. The league has built its empire on the idea that stars are a byproduct of the shield, not independent of it. Sanders is proving the opposite, that the brand can exist first and the production can catch up later. Even in media circles, the impact is immediate. Cleveland's preseason press availability drew 41% more credentialed media members than last year, and national outlets like ESPN and Fox sent crews specifically for Sanders segments. That kind of coverage usually comes once a rookie has delivered a breakout performance. Instead, Sanders has generated it on the basis of his deal. The NFL doesn't want that trend to normalize because it weakens their gatekeeping role. Right now, the storylines are being driven by Sanders' independent brand, not by the league's carefully curated narratives. That shift may seem subtle, but to a league obsessed with controlling image and message, it's a direct challenge. Timing is everything in sports, and Sanders has picked the perfect moment to test the NFL's grip. Player empowerment is at an all-time high, with NBA stars dictating trades and college athletes securing NIL deals worth millions. The NFL has resisted that wave longer than most leagues, largely because of its strict rookie wage scale and centralized sponsorship model. But Sanders' move shows that even the NFL isn't immune. That matters right now because the league is at a crossroads. Cling to tradition or adapt to a new reality where players like Sanders carve out financial independence before the league has a chance to monetize them. The reality is simple. Shedeur Sanders doesn't need to wait. His college legacy at Colorado, where he drew sellout crowds that boosted attendance by 14,000 over the previous year, gave him leverage most rookies don't have. Now that leverage has been converted into cash flow and market power. The NFL can't ignore it, and they can't delay the conversation. The deal is signed, the numbers are public, and the precedent is set. That's why it matters now, because every snap Sanders takes this season will either strengthen or weaken the NFL's grip on its players' economic futures, and the league knows it's playing defense for the first time in a long time. Unlike most rookies, Shedeur Sanders isn't waiting to prove himself before locking in a major endorsement. The contrast becomes sharp when you look at how the NFL has traditionally handled rising stars. Take Patrick Mahomes, for example. In his rookie season, Mahomes didn't sign the State Farm commercials that later became a signature part of his brand. Those deals only arrived after he won an MVP award and delivered on the field. unsettled. The NFL's structure is designed to reward performance first, and then allow endorsements to grow from that platform. Sanders has reversed that order, securing a huge deal outside the league before even stepping into a regular season huddle. The league is furious because it chips away at decades of precedent built to maintain control. You see the difference even more clearly when compared to Baker Mayfield, Cleveland's last rookie sensation. In 2018, Mayfield's jersey sales exploded, ranking number 1, 2 in the league behind Tom Brady after his debut win over the Jets. But those sales flowed directly through the NFL's merchandise partner Fanatics, ensuring the league benefited as much as the player. Sanders' jersey surge, by contrast, is routed through a private partnership linked to his independent deal, bypassing Fanatics altogether. The impact is measurable. Fanatics reported a 12% decline in Browns merchandise sales during the week Sanders' contract launched, despite an overall increase in jersey orders nationwide. It means the demand is there, but the league isn't cashing in. The comparison doesn't stop at football. Sanders' deal looks more like the contracts we've seen in basketball and women's sports, where brand leverage often precedes professional dominance. LeBron James signed a $90 million Nike deal before his first NBA game. Caitlin Clark secured a multi-million-dollar shoe contract while still at Iowa, long before logging a WNBA minute. Those examples shook their respective leagues, but were easier to justify because of proven college dominance and massive marketability. Sanders' case is unusual because the NFL has resisted this kind of leapfrogging for so long. The league has always insisted that players earn it inside the system first. Sanders has instead imported the NIL era mentality from college into the NFL, and that makes the comparison sting for league executives. Even quarterbacks with massive followings didn't break tradition this way. Trevor Lawrence, who entered the league as one of the most hyped prospects in a decade, signed endorsements before his rookie season, but none of them carried exclusivity clauses that conflicted with the NFL's own sponsorship rights. Lawrence partnered with Gatorade, Bose, and Adidas, all companies aligned with the league's broader business ecosystem. Sanders' deal, however, reportedly blocks him from participating in NFL shop ads and prevents his likeness from being used in certain league-sponsored campaigns. That's a crucial difference. Instead of being additive to the NFL's brand, Sanders' deal is competitive with it. That's why executives are upset. It's not just big, it's conflicting. Consider the impact through another lens: television ratings. When Johnny Manziel debuted with the Browns in 2014, his first preseason game drew 5.4 million viewers, making it the most watched preseason broadcast that year. But all of that hype, merchandise, and exposure funneled directly through NFL channels. Sanders is delivering similar attention. Regional viewership in Cleveland spiked 32% during his first preseason appearance, but the benefits are being split. His independent sponsor ran their own ad campaign during the broadcast, featuring Sanders without the NFL logo, drawing 3.1 million impressions online within 24 hours. For the league, that's lost synergy. Manziel's rise may have been chaotic, but at least it was profitable for the NFL. Sanders' rise is profitable for Sanders first, and the league second. The cultural comparison is just as important. Historically, the NFL has marketed quarterbacks as ambassadors of the shield, not rebels against it. Tom Brady, Peyton Manning, Drew Brees, they all tied their personal brands tightly to the NFL's official image. Even when they signed outside deals, those contracts reinforced the NFL's authority rather than challenging it. Sanders, however, has tapped into a different playbook. His marketing echoes the college NIL era, where players became independent entrepreneurs first and league representatives second. That mindset fits the cultural moment, but it clashes with the NFL's long-held belief that no player is bigger than the league. By securing his deal outside that system, Sanders invites direct comparison to those who stayed in line, and the contrast isn't flattering for the NFL. We can also look back at how other leagues handled similar situations. When Zion Williamson entered the NBA, his shoe deal with Jordan Brand was massive, but the NBA leaned into it, promoting Zion as a centerpiece of their next generation. The WNBA has embraced Caitlin Clark's endorsements, seeing them as an opportunity to grow the sport's profile. The NFL, by contrast, has always tried to control star branding through uniform contracts, official partnerships, and centralized campaigns. Sanders is forcing the NFL into a situation it has never been comfortable with. The comparison makes clear: where other leagues adapt, the NFL resists. And now, resistance looks like weakness. Even from a financial history standpoint, the scale is unique. Russell Wilson didn't land a top 10 endorsement portfolio until after winning a Super Bowl. Dak Prescott didn't secure a mega deal with Jordan Brand until his third Pro Bowl season. Sanders, with 0 regular season starts, already has a deal analyst project could rival both. That comparison alone shows why the NFL is rattled. If he succeeds, it means years of traditional player brand sequencing were unnecessary. If he fails, it means the NFL is saddled with the optics of a rookie who cashed in more off the field than on it. Either way, the league's carefully guarded tradition has been broken, and Sanders is the one breaking it. All of these comparisons lead to one unavoidable conclusion: Shedeur Sanders is playing a different game than the one the NFL wrote. Where other rookies accepted the league's authority as the cost of doing business, Sanders has challenged it head on. By contrasting his path with Mahomes, Mayfield, Lawrence, and even LeBron or Caitlin Clark, the scope of the shift becomes undeniable. The NFL isn't just dealing with a talented young quarterback, it's dealing with a symbol of how athlete empowerment has finally breached its walls. The deeper you look into Shedeur Sanders' deal, the more you realize it isn't just about one player cashing in early, it's about how the entire business model of the NFL could be forced to change. For decades, the league has built its empire on controlling two things: broadcast rights and sponsorships. The NFL sells itself to networks and corporate partners as the most reliable ratings driver in American television. Every deal is structured around the idea that the league, not individual players, owns the relationship with advertisers and fans. Sanders' contract flips that assumption. By locking in a huge deal that stands outside the NFL's reach, he's proving that one player can draw ratings, merchandise, and cultural conversation on his own. For the league, that's more threatening than anything that happens on the field. Start with the broadcast side. The Browns' preseason games this year have delivered audience growth that far outpaces the league average. According to regional Nielsen data, Cleveland's first preseason broadcast with Sanders active drew a 7.4 household rating in Northeast Ohio, up from 5.6 the year before. That's a 32% jump in a category where most teams are flat or down. On NFL Plus, Sanders' first extended appearance topped 450,000 concurrent viewers, smashing the platform's previous preseason record by over 100,000. Normally, the NFL would use those numbers to showcase the strength of its product to sponsors. But the problem is that much of the buzz around those games was tied to Sanders' independent campaign. Social media mentions of Sanders spiked 270% during game week, compared to only a 40% increase for the Browns brand overall. That means the conversation is tilting toward the player, not the shield. Sponsorships tell an even clearer story. The NFL has long enforced exclusivity with partners. Gatorade on the sidelines, Bose for headsets, Microsoft for tablets. Players are expected to fall in line with those agreements. Sanders' deal complicates that landscape. Reports suggest his contract blocks him from appearing in NFL shop ads because his apparel partner isn't aligned with Fanatics, the league's official merchandise distributor. That's not a small detail. NFL Shop generates more than $2.3 billion annually, and the league counts on rookies like Sanders to drive spikes in sales. Instead, his jerseys and merchandise are being sold through his partner's own platform, siphoning off demand. Early estimates put Sanders' August merchandise sales at $9.7 million, a figure that would normally rank in the top 10 across the league for the year. But because it's routed independently, the NFL doesn't see the same return. To league executives, that's money left on the table. And worse, it sets a precedent that others can follow. Fan sentiment makes the picture even more complicated. Among Browns fans, Sanders is already a folk hero. Local surveys show that 64% of ticket holders are more excited about the upcoming season because of him, a number that rivals the buzz around Deshaun Watson's arrival in 2022. But nationally, Sanders is a polarizing figure. His outside deal has been framed by some as entitlement, with critics saying he hasn't earned it yet. On sports talk radio, that narrative has dominated, with segments about Sanders outpacing actual preseason game breakdowns by a factor of 2 to 1. For the NFL, that polarization is a double-edged sword. On one hand, any attention is good attention. On the other, the league prefers to control storylines, and right now, Sanders' contract is bigger news than anything happening in training camps. The gambling industry is another layer where the numbers stand out. According to Ohio Sportsbook data, Browns-related futures bets spiked 37% in the 2 weeks following Sanders' contract announcement. Yet those bets weren't tied to team game outcomes. They were overwhelmingly tied to individual Sanders props like preseason passing yards and touchdowns. That matters because sportsbooks are a key revenue stream for the NFL. The league signed multi-billion-dollar agreements with DraftKings, FanDuel, and Caesars to integrate official betting lines into broadcasts. But if the action is flowing to one player who is promoting his own brand outside the league's ecosystem, it dilutes the NFL's leverage. Sanders' deal may not directly involve betting, but by concentrating fan engagement on his name, it indirectly reshapes where the money flows. Consider how this contrasts with the NFL's traditional marketing machine. When Justin Herbert entered the league in 2020, he quickly became a rising star, but his endorsements all aligned with NFL sponsors. His jersey sales jumped after his Rookie of the Year campaign, but the league collected its share through Fanatics. His appearances in national commercials were cleared through NFL media, ensuring synergy. Sanders' model doesn't fit. His deal cuts out that layer of league approval, making him answerable to his own team and brand, not the Shield. That lack of control is what makes executives furious. It's not just about dollars, it's about losing the ability to dictate how fans engage with the sport. What makes the context deeper still is the cultural moment Sanders is entering. College sports just went through a revolution with NIL rights, where athletes learned they didn't have to wait to monetize their name. Sanders thrived in that environment at Colorado, pulling in NIL deals estimated at over $4.5 million annually. He brought that same mentality into the NFL, and it fits with a generation of athletes who see themselves as businesses from day one. The league, however, has resisted that trend. Its entire rookie wage scale, implemented in 2011, was designed to suppress salaries for new players and funnel more money to veterans. Sanders' outside deal doesn't break that wage scale, but it effectively works around it, giving him superstar level income without waiting for his second contract. That undermines one of the league's central control mechanisms. The Browns, for their part, are caught in the middle. On one side, they benefit directly. Ticket sales surged, concessions rose 15% on nights he played, and local sponsorship interest has climbed. On the other, they risk being seen as complicit in breaking tradition. League pressure is real. Insiders say executives have already warned the Browns not to allow Sanders' deal to interfere with NFL obligations. But what does interference mean when a player's independent campaign is pulling more views online than the league's own highlight clips? Sanders' launch video tied to his contract drew 12.4 million views in 48 hours. The NFL's official preseason recap for the Browns barely cracked 1.9 million. That ratio is embarrassing for a league that prides itself on being the center of sports conversation. There's also the looming question of how broadcasters will handle it. Networks like ESPN and CBS have long-standing agreements with the NFL to feature official sponsors during games. But if Sanders is wearing gear tied to his own deal in pre-game warm-ups, how do networks navigate that? Already, sideline shots of Sanders have been trimmed in certain broadcasts, a subtle sign that the league doesn't want his independent brand overshadowing its sponsors. But that strategy can only go so far. Fans want to see him, and suppressing coverage risks backlash. The deeper context is that the NFL may soon face a choice: adapt to this new player-driven model, or risk alienating fans who see through attempts to hide it. What we're witnessing is a shift in leverage. For the first time, a rookie quarterback has walked into the league with the financial independence and cultural clout to say no to certain league structures. That context matters because the NFL has always operated from a position of control. Now, Sanders is showing that the balance of power can be pushed back, and fans are responding. Whether executives admit it or not, the numbers speak for themselves. Viewership up 28%, resale tickets nearly tripled, jersey sales through the roof, and gambling markets spiking. Sanders isn't just breaking tradition, he's forcing the league to confront a future it has long resisted. Projecting forward, Shedeur Sanders' deal doesn't just reshape his own career trajectory, it has the potential to change how the next generation of NFL players approaches the business side of the sport. If one rookie quarterback can command a contract that rivals the endorsement portfolios of Pro Bowl veterans, what stops the next crop of top draft picks from demanding the same? For years, the NFL has used its rookie wage scale and centralized sponsorship agreements to keep early career players firmly within its structure. Sanders has shown that those barriers can be bypassed, and that precedent is already being studied by agents, brands, and even other athletes who see opportunity in breaking tradition. The most immediate implication is for the 2025 and 2026 draft classes. Agents are going to point directly to Sanders as proof that a player's marketability can outpace his professional resume. Expect negotiations around rookie endorsements to shift dramatically, with brands looking to lock in stars before the NFL has time to put its own stamp on them. This could mean more exclusivity clauses that block league-wide promotions, creating tension between player brands and NFL partners. If even 2 or 3 high-profile rookies follow Sanders' path, the NFL's sponsorship ecosystem begins to fragment. Networks paying billions for broadcast rights don't want fragmented branding. They want centralized stars that the league can showcase freely. The friction between those goals will only intensify. There's also the long-term question of collective bargaining. The NFL Players Association has fought for decades to gain more revenue-sharing power, but even they have worked within the centralized model. Sanders' deal hints at a future where top players might not need the union to negotiate certain rights. If independent contracts become widespread, the NFLPA risks losing leverage at the same time the league does. Imagine a scenario where 10 or 15 star players each control their own major sponsorship channels, independent of the league. Suddenly, both the NFL and the union are negotiating with individuals, not a collective. That could upend the entire labor structure of the sport. The Browns themselves face a more practical implication. How do you manage a quarterback whose off-field profile already outpaces his on-field role? Sanders is still battling for snaps, but his market power makes it nearly impossible to keep him on the bench for long. If ticket sales spike 40% when he plays and plummet when he sits, coaches face pressure that goes beyond football. Cleveland has lived through this dynamic before. Johnny Manziel brought ticket and jersey surges without the production to back them up, and the fallout left the franchise fractured. Sanders is different because his deal ensures the attention doesn't fade with poor play. It's locked in through a long-term contract. That means the Browns can't rely on the normal cycle of hype dying down. They have to manage both the football development and the business spotlight at the same time, a balancing act that few franchises have ever faced. From a league-wide standpoint, the implications ripple through broadcasting negotiations. Amazon, YouTube, and ESPN all want access to stars who drive ratings. If Sanders can deliver double-digit viewership jumps on preseason games, networks will want him prominently featured. But if his contract prevents him from appearing in certain NFL ad campaigns, those networks lose some of the value they paid for. That's a direct threat to the billions the league commands in its media rights deals. Expect the NFL to respond by tightening future sponsorship language, perhaps even adding clauses that limit rookies from signing independent deals that conflict with league partners. But tightening the rules won't stop brands from trying, especially if Sanders proves the model works. Another layer is gambling markets. Sanders' popularity has already shifted prop betting volume toward his name, even before he starts a regular season game. If this continues, sportsbooks will begin to market him heavily in their own campaigns. That creates another collision point with the NFL's official partnerships. Right now, the league enjoys exclusive revenue sharing from its betting deals, but if sportsbooks see more value in pushing Sanders-specific props tied to his independent brand, the NFL loses leverage in those negotiations. The future implication is simple. Sanders could accelerate a trend where the money flows toward individuals rather than the institution, and sportsbooks are savvy enough to follow where the action goes. For the players, Sanders' path opens a new playbook. Historically, rookies were advised to keep their heads down, focus on the playbook, and let success on the field drive their marketability. Sanders has proven that narrative outdated. College athletes today grow up in the NIL era, where they are expected to monetize early and often. By carrying that mentality into the NFL, Sanders is the first true test case of whether that approach can thrive against the league's resistance. If it works, younger athletes will enter the draft already negotiating mega deals, putting pressure on both the league and the teams to adapt. That changes the dynamic of rookie development forever. Instead of franchises grooming prospects slowly, they'll face the business imperative of putting marketable players on the field sooner. The cultural implications are just as big. The NFL has built its image on the idea that no player is bigger than the shield. Sanders challenges that directly. If his contract allows him to be marketed in campaigns that don't feature the NFL logo, and those campaigns draw more attention than official league promos, it chips away at the mythology the NFL has spent decades building. Fans, especially younger ones, are increasingly loyal to players over teams or leagues. Sanders' brand-first approach fits perfectly with that shift. The implication is that the NFL could find itself playing catch-up in the culture wars, forced to adapt to a generation that sees athletes as entrepreneurs first and league employees second. Even playoff odds could be indirectly affected. If Sanders' presence drives ticket sales, merchandise, and viewership, the Browns have a financial incentive to accelerate his rise. That means the quarterback depth depth chart could be influenced not just by performance, but by market power. Historically, teams made those decisions based on football first, with marketing as a secondary benefit. In Sanders' case, the lines blur. If he wins the job earlier than expected, Cleveland's playoff trajectory changes. If he sits too long, the franchise risks losing fan momentum. Either way, his outside deal forces football and business into a collision that could alter the Browns' season path. Looking further down the road, the NFL may face a scenario where stars begin clustering around independent deals that rival league partnerships. If a handful of players sign with the same apparel company outside the NFL ecosystem, that company suddenly holds leverage against the league itself. Imagine if Sanders, plus 2 or 3 other star quarterbacks, formed the face of a brand that competes directly with Nike, the NFL's partner. That's not far-fetched, and it would be a nightmare for league negotiators. Sanders' deal is the first domino in what could become a wave. The biggest implication, though, is philosophical. The NFL has thrived on centralization, believing that the shield is bigger than any individual. Sanders has exposed that belief as outdated. The future may belong to players who walk into the league already bigger than the marketing machine, forcing the NFL to either adapt or risk irrelevance in how stars are presented. That's why executives are furious. It's not just about one deal. It's about what that deal means for the future of control, money, and power in professional football. Shedeur Sanders' move to secure a massive deal outside of the NFL is more than a headline. It's a turning point. For decades, the league has sold itself as the ultimate gatekeeper, the institution that creates stars, controls the spotlight, and dictates how the money flows. Sanders has shown that the equation no longer holds. Even as a rookie quarterback fighting for reps, he has the leverage to command a contract that lives beyond the league's walls. That reality forces the NFL to confront a future where the balance of power is no longer tilted so heavily toward the shield. The numbers leave no doubt. Ticket resale markets spiked nearly 40% when Sanders was announced as taking extended reps. Jersey sales tied to his independent deal outpaced all Browns merchandise combined. Regional viewership jumped by double digits in games where he played, and perhaps most importantly, his own campaign video drew 6 times the engagement of the NFL's official highlights during the same week. Each of those figures points to the same truth. Sanders doesn't need the NFL to validate his brand, but the NFL still needs Sanders to maximize its reach. That reversal is why executives are unsettled and why fans are paying such close attention. Tradition in the NFL has always dictated that rookies earn before they monetize. Sanders has shattered that tradition, pulling forward a model borrowed from NIL deals in college sports and dropping it squarely into the league's lap. Whether you see that as arrogance or innovation depends on perspective. To some, Sanders is jumping the line, cashing in before proving himself under the brightest lights. To others, he's simply recognizing his market value and refusing to let the NFL dictate the timeline. Either way, he's forcing a conversation the league can't ignore. For Cleveland, the implications are immediate. A team that has struggled for national relevance suddenly has a rookie quarterback who commands attention far beyond the field. Every roster decision, every depth chart shift, every snap Sanders takes or doesn't take will be viewed through the lens of business as much as football. That's both a gift and a burden. It brings unprecedented exposure, but also magnifies every stumble. The Browns don't just have to manage a quarterback, they have to manage a brand, one that already moves numbers on a scale most rookies could only dream of. Zooming out, the league's frustration makes sense. If Sanders' model works, he won't be the last. Other rookies will follow, other brands will test the boundaries, and the NFL's centralized structure will weaken. The league's strength has always come from its ability to act as a unified front in business negotiations. Sanders has cracked that armor, showing that players can build parallel empires. The question now is how far that shift goes, and whether the NFL adapts or digs in. In the end, the story of Shedeur Sanders' outside deal isn't just about money, it's about control, timing, and the future of the sport. The NFL has prided itself on tradition, but Sanders has shown that tradition is only as strong as the players willing to follow it. He's chosen a different path, and the ripple effects will be felt for years. So now the debate begins. Should rookies be expected to prove themselves before chasing massive endorsements? Or is Sanders right to secure his value while the market is hot? And more importantly, is this the start of a new era where players hold more power than the league itself, or will the NFL find a way to pull the reins back before the model spreads?